Parking woes. Bengalurans now are all set to shell more for parking, not just in public spaces, but also in their private spaces. This has come as a rude shock. Owning a house or an apartment in Bengaluru was once considered a blessing, but this notion may no more hold good, as it seems like living in the city itself has become expensive. Now you have parking tax that will be imposed annually. A revised parking tax structure has come into effect from April 1st in Bengaluru. The BBMP has recently revised the property tax structure for covered and stilt parking areas in Bengaluru. This means now that all individuals will have to pay parking fee per square feet cost has been imposed, and that's going to be part of your property tax.
I don't understand the logic of it. Now here, this is what you see here is my parking slot, okay, on which I am already paying a property tax. It is when the khata was prepared, my property tax was based on the super built-up area, and to that they added 125 into 2 square feet, okay, to cover the 2 parking slots that I own here. So, and on that, I am paying an annual property tax. So now, where is this additional? So my car is parked here. This is my property. I am parking my car on. So what business do they have to charge me for that? I don't understand this at all.
Pertinent questions that's on the minds of every person living in Bengaluru right now. This change affects both residential and commercial properties and may have financial implications for property owners. The decision has sparked concerns among the public who fear the new parking tax could be higher than current rates, while officials claim the revision will lead to a reduction in overall tax liability. Previously, parking tax accounted for 50% of the total property tax for residential units, but with the new revised parking tax, charges are set to benefit shopping malls, which previously paid up to 8 per parking slot, but will now have to pay only 3 per slot. Now, on the other hand, independent houses and apartments who have declared parking spaces would have to shell out more tax. Here's how the parking tax calculations work. With this, 20% of the UAV into area is 10 months for residential property and 25% for commercial property. There you have it. 600 per year is precisely how much you'd pay for 1 parking spot in a residential area. In commercial commercial spaces, you'll pay 900 per year per parking slot. So how does this work, and how will this really help Bengaluru's traffic woes, or does it help at all? Joining me to discuss this is Vivek Menon, civic expert and former advisor to the Chief Minister of Karnataka. We also have Katyayani Chamaraj, Executive Trustee, Civic Bangalore, Karnataka. Over to you, Vivek. You've been integral in shaping Bengaluru's infrastructure on many levels. Do we need parking tax? And what do you think is the BBMP's intention? For us as common citizens, we look at this as a burden to make some extra buck. I don't know where that extra buck is going. But what's the purpose of taxing people in their private spaces?
I mean, the proliferation of cars in Bangalore has obviously created a huge problem in terms of parking. And I think none of us are new to that problem. I think the way the BBMP has gone about it is probably not the right way. And I think, of course, when you look at the pros of basically charging for parking, you're looking at obviously revenue generation. And apparently the BBMP does say that they're going to generate about 180 crores out of this whole parking thing that they have. Obviously, Bangalore's streets, unfortunately, are mismanaged when it comes to parking, and we really haven't found a solution to it. In fact, not too long ago, they started charging for parking on Brigade Road, and that really helped. But today, that whole system has fallen apart. So I don't think the BBMP necessarily has a good way of managing this whole parking problem. Now, when it comes to private buildings themselves, in fact, the bigger challenge that we had was that most private buildings that had to provide parking have not provided parking. And so we have fewer spaces now within private buildings for, visitor parking and for others, and you have more roadside parking right now. And I think the problem of roadside parking is only going to compound itself as we sell more cars and create a larger problem. Now, of course, we are trying to, over the past several decades, trying to encourage the use of public transportation. And of course, with the metro that is fully functional right now, we are finding a lot of people gravitating towards that. And of course, congestion pricing within the urban metros itself is a good thing. So all in all, making sure that we charge for parking in spaces that are public is well and good. But when you move into the private realm and you say that I'm going to charge you for parking within your own premises, I think that's where the problem really compounds itself. And I think the BBMP really needs to take a good look at it, because yes, like one of the speakers said before, today when you look at it, you are already paying taxes for your building itself with the UAV and with whether it's a commercial premises or a residential premises. So I think trying to move into the private space of a citizen and charge for parking is probably misplaced. But I do feel, Nabila, that on streets, especially private streets or public streets within neighborhoods, we have to somehow find a solution to the parking menace that we have today. Of course, on the cons, there's obviously potential for mismanagement, and I think that's something that maybe needs to be tackled. And I think enforcement is going to be a huge challenge, and I'm not necessarily convinced that the BBMP has a solution to that.
No, when you say enforcement of what? Of better parking? People are not going to sell off their cars because of this tax imposed. They're going to endure this tax and and use their cars and buy more cars. Do you think this is the right way to discipline them?
Yes, but at the same time, if you look at a lot of the streets, I mean, about 5 years ago, the BBMP did try to, enforce, obviously a charge for parking on our streets, and it worked well. If you look at Brigade Road, if you look at MG Road, you look at Church Street, even when we designed Tendershore roads, we did provide parking within that. But of course, at the end of the day, St. Mark's Road today, there was a parking app that one could use, and it worked very well, because most people would otherwise just park their cars and walk away. So I think you do need to charge for it, because if you look at most of the congested cities in the world, you look at Boston, you look at Chicago, you look at places like that, where every street parking spot is actually charged for, and it's not cheap. They charge you $1.50, $2 per hour.
So, I know parking is expensive, but those are public spaces, even in private.
Yes. So no, in private, so charging for private spaces is where the problem really comes, and I think I highlighted that earlier on. Because at the end of the day, you're already paying your property taxes. So I think burdening the taxpayer, the property taxpayer, with an additional tax on it, I think is misplaced. I might say this. I have 5 car parks in my own basement. Now I've provided that so that people do not park on the street. But if you're going to charge me, at 900 rupees per car park, and 4,500 rupees extra, then that's actually taxing someone who's actually providing an amenity and taking street parking off. So I think, the BBMP really needs to look at that, take a good look at that.
Absolutely. So then the intention of taxing private spaces seems completely misplaced. Katyayani, how would you view this? Bengalurans are furious.
Well, this is going to affect only those private vehicle owners. So I think that are very, I'm sorry, they are very sorry about it.
No worries, you can fix your connection.
Yeah, they're already pampered. We have no congestion tax, and we don't, unless we bring that in, people are not going to shift to public transport. So what we need is congestion tax. And like Mr. Menon said, 5 years ago, a parking policy was developed but never implemented. Why? Because when I walk on the street near my house, I find Mercedes cars parked on the pavement because the building has failed to provide a parking place within the building. So I think the more important thing is to impose a congestion tax and then to penalize people who are parking on the road because, or on the pavement because they have failed to provide space within the building. And even if you have to pay 600 rupees per year for a parking slot that you have within your compound, I don't think it's too much for a private vehicle owner to be paying.
Yeah, but
You know,
it's not too
so,
much, but we're only looking at the compounding, budget. You
well,
hardly have.
you're saying you're saying that the commercial parking place is going to be charged less. Why? If it's a commercial area and they're making a lot of profit, why should that cost be reduced? And only for
No,
the
what I'm
private.
saying, I'm not debating the commercial areas. I'm talking about private areas. Basically, even if I'm a car owner and I'm paying 600 annually, it might not seem so much. But the fact is that there is price rise on every aspect of daily life now in Karnataka. You have diesel prices up, you have milk prices up, metro prices up. We heard now a garbage collection tax on that. So while you have this compounding expenditure, then this is a lot. It sums up to a lot. A final word, Vivek, if you can give me a sense on how the BBMP could better deal with it.
May I just add?
Yeah, ma'am.
May I just add that this is a way of, imposing a kind of wealth tax. So I don't think we should worry too much about it.
Okay, not wrong, Vivek.
So Nabila, I think the BBMP, imposing a tax on public spaces, on roadside parking. I think that's fair. It's equitable. It needs to be done, just because otherwise you have very haphazard parking across streets. And I think in residential neighborhoods it does get to be a problem. I live in the neighborhood of Cooktown, and interestingly, ITC, which is a huge employer out there, is one of the biggest perpetrators, because they have not provided any kind of parking for any of their taxis that come and pick up their people, and it's spread out onto a residential neighborhood like Cooktown. So I think, in a sense, if you can impose parking within your premises itself, and for large companies, this should be a mandatory aspect of it. Now, when you come to private houses, I think there has to be some amount of leniency. I don't think, for a person who's providing a service and providing, a car park within their premises itself, should not be penalized. But somebody who's parking on the street side should pay up for that. And I think, if there's a dynamic pricing model that they can come up with, probably even a ParkU app, which they had, which did not work out too well.
From the intention, if this is to decongest Bengaluru roads, then might as well levy a restriction. One person or one family can own only 2 cars or only 1 car. There are mandates like this in other countries, I hear.
Yeah, I think that might be a little difficult to do, especially in a city like Bangalore, where obviously with an upwardly mobile middle class that flaunts its cars and considers it a prestige symbol. I think it'll be very difficult to kind of mandate that you buy just 1 car.
Correct.
Or
Correct. Katyayani, final word from you.
Yes, people, because there is no disincentive to not own private cars or to take public transport, people are buying more and more cars. And that is, I think, if you impose this tax, that may work as a disincentive to buy more cars.
Okay,
so
let's just hope it serves the purpose. If that's the purpose, let's hope it serves the purpose. I definitely want to see easy traffic on Bengaluru roads. Thanks very much, both of you, for joining us.